Well. I have not done a Remodelers on the Rise live show in what seems like forever, but it's just been a couple weeks. But here we are today, back in the saddle. The saddle being the stand-up desk. If you guys don't have, if you guys have thought about getting a stand-up desk, one where you could kind of move it up and down with a push of a button, I highly recommend it. If you're sitting at your desk all day and you're sitting in a chair, chances are your back is going to get sore. But boy, it's nice to kind of stand up, stretch out a little bit. But I digress. Today, what we're going to talk about, I already got a little hello. What we're going to talk about today is planning. And the reason it kind of popped up is we are a little bit past the halfway point in the year. Wow, June is already done. We're already into July. January through June just flew by, and we're halfway through the year. And what I wanted to talk about is whether you kind of regroup and make a clear plan for the balance of the year, whether you hear this and start to think about more of an annual plan, you start to work on that in the fall or later this year, we need to make sure that we have a little bit of a process, a little bit of a format to effectively plan your year out. And you can apply this to a period of time. You can do this based on a quarter. You can do this many different ways to go about it. I'm going to share some things that have worked well for me, some things that I have taught my remodeling clients over the years that have worked well for them, and just get you thinking about this. I see some people watching live. If you can just give me a comment, I'd love a little interaction today. I mean, if you're watching this and I'm sitting here going, give me a little comment, click a little like button, please do so. I will share, when we talk about planning, I have a hard time not mentioning 5P. 5P stands for proper preparation prevents poor performance. And I think we can apply that to how we plan and goal set for the year. All right, so let's get into it. If I were to ask you, hey, how are you doing? How's your year going? Two answers you could give that when I've asked that in the past, I could hear something similar to these two. One way of doing it is, doing fine, doing okay. You know, nothing, just kind of going about my week in, week out, month in, month out. This year's going okay. It's going fine. Or you could also answer that. Here we are at the halfway point of the year. How's things going? Well, you could answer like this. Well, when I look at my plan and my goals for the year, and I reflect on the fact that we're halfway through the year, here's how I'm doing. Fill in the blank. There's a big difference between those two, right? Here we are halfway through the year. And if I said, all right, we're at the halfway point of the year, how are you doing? How's the year going? If your answer is, it's doing good, it's doing fine, what that translates to me is you have not been thoughtful about your planning. You have not set clear goals for the year. You do not have a bit of a theme for your year that says, look, if we do this and this is going to be a year that we're moving in a much stronger direction. You know, well, when I look at, through the first half of the year and I look at what goals I set, you know what, I've been very distracted. I had a good plan in place, but I haven't followed through on it. I haven't followed up on it. You know, so there's a big difference between, I'm doing good. I mean, December rolled into January rolled into February. I'm just kind of getting by. I mean, COVID times are tough and materials are delayed and I'm just kind of getting by and doing my thing. Versus I made a plan. I set clear goals. I set clear priorities. I made sure there were clear action steps that were tied to that. And I've been focused on knocking those out and I'm moving the needle. Those are two very different things. It is very easy in the remodeling business to just not worry about the bigger picture planning. You got enough to worry about. We got material delays. We got labor shortage. We've got materials pricing escalating. We've got plenty of challenges and issues. You got plenty to worry about and to focus on. I would very much encourage you that you need to make sure that you step back and make sure you're planning for your year. You're planning for the second half of this year. So that was me trying to passionately kind of give a little bit of the lay of the land of what we're talking about. Jerry says, I'm listening, Kyle. Thank you, sir. Look at you happy with that dog. What's that dog's name, Jerry? And I'm guessing that year, looking at that picture, that is circa 1985. How close am I? Okay. All right. So my question for you, are you kind of number one, I'm doing fine, I'm doing okay? Or are you number two? Did you have a plan? Could you kind of say, well, let's review my plan. You can tell me how I'm doing, right? Are you number one or number two? All right. So let's get into some of the, what's the phrase I'm looking for? It starts with an F. There it is. Framework. Some of the framework of how you can kind of think through and plan your year. One idea for you on that is to make sure you have a bit of an annual meeting. And again, I will encourage you, you could do a semi-annual meeting. If this inspires you to, man, I have just been kind of going with the waves. I have just been letting things hit me and just kind of rolling with the punches. But listening to Kyle, he makes a good point. I should plan out my year and be a little bit more thoughtful about it so that I can stay on course, that I can stay on target, that I can improve some things. You know, this annual meeting could just be, I'm going to set aside 2 to 4 hours, you know, within this month or within these next 2 weeks, and I'm going to really set it aside as a planning time, as a time to really think through things. Now, if you set aside, let's say 3 hours, you worked your face off in the morning, you took care of some emails, you took care of returning some calls, and then, all right, hey, from 1 to 4 o'clock today, it is planning time. Whether this is just you, whether this is you plus a couple key team members, whoever it is, how do you approach those 3 hours? What is a good way to approach it? There's just some of the ideas that I want to share with you. Hang on, though. We've got more important business first. Yeah, 85 sounds okay. And that dog was my legendary Rosalita. What a beautiful dog name. What a beautiful name in general. And I guess the 1985. Cool. All right, excellent. All right, back to it. You have 3 hours set aside for some planning. Here's what I would encourage you to do first. Rear view mirror. It is time to look in the rear view mirror. Let's plan going forward by first looking in the rear view mirror. Let's say this is more of an annual planning meeting. Okay, you can do this a lot of times in November or December. You can do this even, you know, right at the start of a year. I want you to list out, what did you accomplish in this last year? What did you accomplish in this last year? Every time I do this myself, every time I do this with clients, the list of what you accomplished usually leads to this response. Huh, we actually did a lot more than I thought we did. Huh, we actually did make some good progress and some good implementation this year. We forget half the stuff that we implement. And it is a really good best practice when you start to plan for the upcoming year to reflect back on the previous year and list out what you accomplished. What did you get done? Really work through that and pay attention to that. And if you've done planning the year before, be a little bit real of saying, how did I do on executing my plan for this previous year? That's a great place to start with your planning, is to look in the rearview mirror and give yourself an honest assessment of how you've done and also what you accomplished. Okay, so that is the first part of the annual meeting. I feel like I need a little sound effect to really get this going. We need to bust out some chime here. There we go. All right, so that was number one. The second thing I would do during this annual planning is to look forward. I'm talking like far out forward. You know, there's 1,000 different ways that you can approach planning. You know, I'm not a huge like, what's 3 years out look like? What does 2 years out look like? But I do like that 5-year look out. That to me is something that most people can kind of wrap their head around. You're here. Let's forward things out 5 years, you know, into 2026. What do things look like? What are things that are going to be different? Like, what do you want to be doing day in and day out yourself? What kind of team do you have around you? What kind of revenue are you looking at? Or just as importantly, what are you looking to make from the business personally? Give yourself some time to kind of brainstorm. Sometimes it's helpful to kind of fold your arms like this, put your hand on your chin. And I always find it helpful to look out a window and just ponder. Think about it. Dream a little bit, brainstorm a little bit. 5 years out, what does that look like? Write that down. Write down some of those thoughts. Don't be scared to write down some real dreams that you have related to it. You may have the desire to be totally out of the business. You may have the desire to have everything except for this task delegated and people responsible for it. Your 5 years from now may look not super different than they do now, but you may be a lot more profitable. You may be more focused on your level of workload or your stress level. You might be more focused on the type of projects that you're focused on. There's a lot of different ways to slice it. Dream about it a little bit. Think about it. Cast a little bit of a vision of what you and your business look like in 5 years. Okay. So this is, again, we're planning. This is a Remodelers on the Rise episode related to planning, and I'm giving you a little bit of an in-depth related to an annual plan. But again, this can be applied to the second half of the year as well. All right. So we looked in the rearview mirror first. What did you accomplish? This, that, and then look out in that 5-year window and get real clear with what that looks like. One other thing related to the long-term planning. There's a book that was written, and there's a phrase called BHAG. BHAG, BHAG. I'll have to look it up. Bailey, if you're listening to this, can you look that up real quick and just write the author name? And there's a book that was with it. It stands for, it's kind of a gross phrase, big, hairy, audacious goal. I don't really like saying that. It's kind of annoying to say that. But that's what it stands for. Give all this. I work with all remodelers, but for a number of years, I worked with an IT company. Kind of was their marketing director, kind of outside consultant coach. And I worked with him for about 10 years, just wrapped up here recently with him. And Ari, the owner, read that book, and he said, I got a BHAG. My BHAG is to be the coast-to-coast leader in providing small business IT services. And I remember looking at that being like, coast to coast? Mister, I've got one location in Connecticut. You're going to be coast to coast, huh? That's cute. That's a cute goal, right? And thinking kind of like that, like that's just pie in the sky. That's his big, hairy, audacious goal. And he's an incredibly driven person. Well, guess what? When you have a really big goal out there on the far term horizon, I mean, his goal is like a 30-year goal. It colors how you are running your business and thinking about your business and strategizing your business. In his case, if he's legitimately going to be a coast-to-coast leader, he's going to have to open up different branches. Mergers and acquisitions are going to be a critical part of it. And it's got to start with really solid systems and processes and being able to have a management team. Well, guess what? Over the years, we started poking away at making sure processes, systems, marketing, sales process, the way that they were taking care of their clients, building a management team. Then all of a sudden there was an acquisition. They bought another competitor in another area of Connecticut. And then fast forward, his business was acquired by a bigger business. He is now the CEO of this bigger business, and he's up to 7, maybe 8 locations. He's got one in Illinois. He's got some in Florida. He's got several in the Northeast. He's executing on his BHAG because it was legitimately, that's what he wants to do. So my question for you, my question for me even is like, what's your BHAG? What's that big goal way down the road that you're trying to build? For me, it's even still a little fuzzy. So that's another thing when you're thinking about annual planning, you might look at that, but certainly more realistically, look at that 5-year out goal. Okay. Hopefully that's helpful. BHAG is Jim Collins. I do believe you're right, Jerry. Jim Collins, built to last is where that's coming from. Oh, Bailey has a new profile picture on Facebook. Okay. All right, rock and roll. All right. So that was that. Now, we've gone in the rearview mirror. We've gone 5 years out. I even threw out the even wider than that. Now come back to this upcoming year. Come back to this upcoming next 6 months. What are your goals for this year? And that 5-year goal should kind of color that a little bit. You can reverse engineer that a little bit. If I'm going to get there in 5 years, what are a couple things that I need to be doing this year to move me towards that goal? Think about just processes and systems that are broken. Think about hiring that you might need to do. And the way I like to kind of do this is to go around the horn. Bailey, I'm going to ask you to do something else. If you can copy and paste that episode that I did related to around the horn in the comments, That would be good for people to be able to link to. I did an episode of Remodelers on the Rise where we kind of went around the horn. We looked at marketing, sales process, estimating and design, production, processes and systems, cash flow and financials, HR and your team, your org chart, work-life balance, your health. And what I did was kind of say, here's some thought starters. Here's some different things in each of these areas that can kind of get you thinking. And the goal of going around the horn is to identify 1 or 2 goals in each area or in a handful of areas that are going to be part of your goal and plan for the year. Okay, so you kind of need to go around the horn. So again, we need to come back to this upcoming year or this next 6 months. What are your goals for this next time period? What are you wanting to achieve at the end of that year, at the end of that 6 months? What are you going to have done, implemented, fixed? And sometimes it's very helpful to kind of think through the around the horn. Take the time to write that out. Write down some of your goals. Write down some of your plan for that upcoming time period. Get it out of your head and put it onto paper. Okay. And I'll get to this in a little bit, but I'll emphasize it here as well. We usually are ambitious and we take on too many things. It is very rare that a client that I work with, or frankly a business in general, gets done with their plan for the year, and you look at it and go, well, that's too few of things. Shouldn't you add more to that? Very rarely is that said. Usually we're too ambitious. We have too many, and we need to whittle it down. So that's something to keep in mind. Less is more. Less is more. There can be something called the parking lot. There are good ideas that you want to implement. There are good plans and goals that you want to implement, but sometimes they need to go in the parking lot. They're not totally lost, but they're going to sit over there because we have other priorities that we need to focus on first. Back to the IT company, one of the things that was interesting is as the business grew, the number of key initiatives and the number of key goals for the year shrunk. We had more resources, more money, more people, and the focus narrowed down to fewer things. That's interesting, right? Because it was more and more important to really knock a handful of things out of the park than to try to do 6 or 7 or 8 different things. We all know that. We've all experienced that. Yet we still try to create a plan with too many things. So really narrow it down. So again, rearview mirror first, looking in the future. Now coming back to this current year, what are your goals for this year? And get really clear with that and list those out. And then be honest with yourself. And am I taking on too much? What can I narrow down? What needs to go in the parking lot? And get clear with what those goals are. I'm going to pause there because I got a few comments. Michael, hi, Michael. Long-term goals. Phew. I'd like to retire again and take on some other challenge. Interesting. Cool. Bailey says, I've always found this to be a great way to break down personal and professional goals into manageable steps. I spend a morning each December in a coffee shop. Oh, it sounds so peaceful, Bailey. Working through this and setting reminders in my calendar. Here's a free worksheet, passionplanner.com. Cool. And there's the Around the Horn /goal episode. All right, cool. All right, so we get kind of a plan for the year. The next step, if I may chime it, so it shows you that we're moving on to the next part in the process I'm going through, is to think quarterly goals. One thing that we always do when we make annual plans or when we make a 6-month plan, let's say the second half of the year, is we start to take that list, and I'll get to it in a second with SMART goals and whatnot, but we put all of the weight and we say, I'm going to have this done by March 15th, and I'm gonna have this one done by February 28th. And we go through the whole thing, and like all of our goals have been condensed into the first 4 months of the year, even though the year is 12 months long. So oftentimes, take that list and that plan that you created as you went around the horn, as you identified things you wanted to fix, and identify some that can be a second half of the year thing. You definitely want it to happen this year, but it's not something that necessarily has to happen in the first quarter or the second quarter. Okay, so I kind of identify which quarter you're going to want to attack these, and And then what you really want to put focus in on is just that next quarter, that next 3 months. That is just, and there's so many people that give advice on goals and planning and whatnot. But if you really look at each one of them individually, I would say that the majority of people really do emphasize, let's just focus on this next 90 days. Let's just focus on this next quarter. We want to know where we're going for the year overall, but where the rubber really hits the road is, what am I going to do this next quarter? Okay. And we want to set SMART goals for the quarter. SMART, specific, it's an acronym. It stands for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. So if I have a goal, I went around the horn, and let's say I got to the sales process, and I said, you know what, this year am going to start charging for design and project development. Need to do that. First of all, you're going to buy my course on it because it's excellent, if I may say so myself, and other people say it too. But that's going to be helpful. That could be an action step. Sign up for Kyle's course and go through it. But sign up for Kyle's course and take the course and do the work. That's not a SMART goal. Is it specific? Yes, it's that course. Is it measurable? Yeah, we're going to be able to know if it's done or not because you're going to do the work and finish it. Is it attainable and realistic? Yeah. You can, yes, for sure. It's broken up into nice chunks. But is it time bound? You didn't hear that in that goal. I didn't say, sign up for Kyle's course, complete the course and the work by March 15th, 2021. Now we've got a SMART goal. We've actually got a deadline. So as you look at your goals and your plans and you get your quarterly plans, make sure that all of the options underneath that are SMART. By the way, more SMART goals, people. Whether it's planning, whether it is you just had a team meeting, whether it is you had a production meeting, whether you had a design meeting, more SMART goals. So-and-so will have this specific thing done by this date. Good leaders, good managers use SMART goals. Yeah, I'll get that done. That's a terrible statement, right? And because time out, you just said you're going to get that done. By when? Well, I'm going to have that done by Friday. By the end of the week. Can we be a little more specific with that? I need a better commitment than that. I'm going to have it done by 2:00 on Friday so that they know before the weekend. Now we're getting somewhere. That sounds like a production manager talking to a project manager. That sounds like the owner talking to their designer to get them to make a little bit more SMART goals. Great power in doing that, and something that we can all practice. SMART goals, Kyle dropping SMART bombs. Yes, indeed. Michael, I'm not heading up necessarily to your neck of the woods, but tomorrow my father and 2 sons and I are heading up to Royale National Park. I said that to a buddy this morning. He's like, I had you pegged as more as somebody that wouldn't really want to go hiking and like to a national park and roughing it. And I said, well, I don't know why you said that, because I love camping. So we're driving up there, and probably wave to Minnesota from there, and we're taking a seaplane. We're taking a seaplane where we take off on the water. It's like a little 30-minute jaunt, and then we land over on Isle Royale. And I've made this joke all day today, but people, if the seaplane is actually as dangerous as my wife and mother-in-law think it is, it's been nice knowing you. Enjoy this final Remodelers on the Rise show. Is that too much? Was that too negative, or was that still funny? It was supposed to be funny. Okay. All right, people. SMART goals. Okay. So let me just review it again. The whole, and I'll share a few additional thoughts. Oh, somebody made a comment. Isle Royale. I kayaked all the way around that a few years ago. Sweet. Michael, shoot me a text or shoot me an email with like one little tidbit of an idea of what to do. One note: I've got a 15-year-old and a 9-year-old, and then my dad has got he's not going to be taking like 5 mile hikes, but we're going to do little hikes. If you've got a place, the plane is more enjoyable than the boat. Yes, we're looking forward to that. That's probably going to be the highlight. Okay. What we're talking about here is, again, planning for the year. Why? This came up because it's the second half of the year. This is a wonderful time to step back, do a little on the business, do a little planning in the business. And I'm also giving you the outline of how you should approach your annual planning. this can easily get overlooked. But if you take the time to do these steps, to look in the rearview mirror and evaluate what you accomplished and how your plan the previous year went, if you think through the future, what does 5 years out look like? People, if you don't take the time to think about what the business looks like years down the road, it is going to be very easy for you to be stuck in your business. It is going to be very easy for you not to achieve certain goals or certain timeframes or retirement goals or quasi-retirement goals, because you're not being purposeful and making a plan. You do realize that it is so much easier to execute on that vision and that plan that you have for your business if you strategize it, if you make a plan, if you create action steps where you can implement it, and it's doable. It's doable. If somebody comes to me and says, Kyle, I'm 45 years old. I want to retire at the age of 52 so that I can do this, this, this. Well, what does retire look like? Well, I'd be happy still doing some sales work, but I need to, not be doing this, this, this. I don't need clients I can't be the point person for client communication, da, da, da. We can work with that and we can make a plan and we can figure that out. We're going to talk about financials and where they need to be, your markup, where they need to be, the team around you. It's doable. It's doable. But if you don't take time to actually plan or think about these things, you're just going to be like a ship waving around on the sea. Okay. You're going to be like the stinking boat that takes 4 hours to go from Houghton, Michigan over to Isle Royale instead of this 30-minute seaplane where you just kind of glide in there, and it is a much more enjoyable experience per what Michael just said on that comment. Okay, so take the time, set aside the time. If you haven't done any planning, go sometime in the next 2 weeks and put on your calendar right now a 3-hour chunk of time, figure out who's going to come with you from the team to do it, re-listen to this episode and just follow the different steps that are involved here and make your plan. I'm a little passionate today. I apologize. I haven't done it in a while. It's all been pent up here. Okay, so a couple reminders. Less is more. Set yourself up for success by making a plan with fewer things. One other little curveball or a little thought here is, as you look at your goal for the year, as you look at what you're up to, is there a theme that is emerging? Is there kind of like a banner that you could put over the top of your year that says, you know what this year is about? This year is about fill in the blank. Could be about the client experience. I look at all these goals that we have here, and you know what we're really focused on? We're really focused on enhancing and improving the client experience from that initial phone call through design and development, through the pre-construction, through all the way to the completion of the project. All of our goals are really focused on really getting that client experience stronger. The theme for this year is client experience. Or the theme for this year is profitability, or the theme for this year is fill in the blank. Sometimes that naturally comes out. And when you can have a theme, when you can attach some of those goals to a banner over the top of a theme for the year, people buy into it more. It helps remind you of it more. And it helps you stay focused. So keep an eye out for that. As you put these kind of a goal for the year together, you might see a theme emerging. Another thought is goal setting helps you move the needle. It helps you move the needle. When you don't have goals in front of you, I was talking with Audra, one of my clients, and she used the phrase, goal setting is everything. Setting goals is everything. For her, she's driven by it. Some people are not as driven, but the statement, I don't care if you're driven by goals or not driven by goals, when you set goals and when you have a clear plan, it moves the needle. What, are you just going to accidentally improve everything in your business? You're just accidentally going to kind of work on this and kind of work on that, and then at the end of the year, everything's going to be running smoother? Or are you going to have a specific plan with specific people that are responsible for doing these specific action steps that are time-bound, they're SMART goals? You have such a much, much bigger chance of accomplishing it when you do this. You guys agree with me? I know you do. And goal setting helps keep you focused, helps you from drifting back and forth. And then a few other thoughts on this as I wrap up. Make sure once you do your plan, you create your plan, go into your calendar and set meetings frequently to review it. Maybe it's a once a month, 30-minute meeting. Maybe it's a once a quarter hour meeting. If you go into Bailey Suzio and Kyle Hunt's calendars, you will see, we just had a meeting last week, actually, reviewing our annual plan. How are we doing? How are we not doing? What does the next quarter look like? Are we staying focused on our goals? Is the plan shifting or different? We're setting up time throughout the year to review that. And it's helpful. I mean, frankly, this last meeting we had is kind of convicting to us of going, time out, the banner over the top of this year was that. and we've got distracted, and now we're working on this. We've got to, in this next quarter, get back to our plan, because it's still the most important thing in this business that we got to work on. And it's recharge us and re-energize us to get focused on it, because we did the work to create a plan, and we created reminders so that we had a reason to stop, slow down, step back, and evaluate how we're doing. Print things out, print it out, have it in front of you. Find accountability, whether it's a coach, whether it's a colleague, whether it's an employee, whether it's another business owner, friend. Make sure you have some accountability. That tremendously helps us achieve our goals. Just a statement: most people get fired up with goal planning and then they fizzle. Don't be that person. Focus, delegate, and be resilient. Be resilient. I think I created a piece of content about that word, resilient. Yeah, we need to focus. Yeah, we need to do this. You know what? You know what Kyle needs to do? He needs to be more resilient. He needs to make sure that if he has an interruption, or if he gets distracted with social media, or his day's not going exactly how he had planned, he needs to actually be resilient and get back to the work at hand, to the most important things, to not just kind of be like, yeah, I got an hour left in my day, but I'm just going to kind of poke through my inbox a little bit and respond to things, versus I'm going to be resilient and I'm going to knock out the most important thing that I need to get done. So be resilient. When it comes to planning, there's some resiliency that is very helpful for us. I do hope that you enjoyed today's episode of Remodelers on the Rise. I hope there was some value in there. I hope it fired you up a little bit. And we'll be doing this again next Tuesday and next Thursday. All right. Thank you. Hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Reach out anytime. Catch you later. Oh, one more thing. If you're able, go to Apple Music or wherever you listen to podcasts. Click on Remodelers on the Rise and tell everyone how wonderful the show is. Then more people will find it.